So
Sure.
just first of all, thank you very much for agreeing to meet me in such circumstances where you're leaving for Australia tomorrow. I really appreciate it. I know you're going to be extremely busy trying to get ready and packing and everything. But I found it really important. Now, you are my first interview for this site. And like I told you before, conservethecoast.com is a way to get our viewers to notice people and meet people that are doing conservation work, whether it be on the research aspect or whether it be on the application or both. That's conservethecoast.com in a nutshell. And Bob, you are a perfect example of people who are getting out there. More and more people are getting to know you. You have a LinkedIn site, and then you can always be seen on LinkedIn. You also have a blog site. I believe it is called, forget the name of it here. Here we go. It's www.hdnrm.wordpress.com, and that's actually how I got to know you, was through the blog, and then we met up through LinkedIn, and on your blog, can you just tell me essentially why you constructed this blog, and what made you sort of think about it, and sort of the process of how you decided to go about it, and what articles you wanted to post and things like that.
Yeah, sure, Andrew. I think I found that a lot of natural resource practitioners, whether they were operating in terrestrial or marine environments, almost didn't matter where they were, really overlooked the fact that people lived there, had livelihoods there, had perhaps social and maybe cultural connections to the landscape or seascape, and really needed to be reminded of that. And in addition to that, I've often found that natural resource managers especially talk about the public as if the public were sort of one uniform mass and they all thought the same. And of course, we know that's not the case. And helping managers to understand how people value the landscapes or seascapes that they live in and work in, I think is a key issue for all of this. And so I think probably the first reason I started the blog was for an educational purpose.
Okay, and you are, and that's actually a perfect lead-in. You are a professor at Lakehead University in Thunder Bay, Ontario. And how long have you been a professor at Lakehead?
I've been here since 1988, so
Okay.
I'm getting to be one of the oldies, but goodies.
But goodies, that's a good one. And you taught before you didn't teach at Lakehead, but you were a professor at other universities as well. Which universities did you teach at?
Yes, I was. I was at the University of Winnipeg for a while. I was at the University of Waterloo for a while. I was at Wilfrid Laurier for a while.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you've had some large experience in Ontario universities. Now, when did you start really getting, I guess before you went to school or as you were going to school, when did you really feel a connection, one towards protecting the environment, because that's essentially what you are, and like what the connection from, like, why are you so interested in the way humans interact with the environment, and where did you get that passion?
Yeah, I guess I started in this when I was really a teenager. I used to hunt, and I found that while I was interested in hunting a little bit, I often more appreciated just being out there and wandering around and watching what was going on. And then I was fortunate enough to be in southern Ontario, in Guelph actually. Around the time there was activity on the Bruce Peninsula with respect to parks. And I remember quite clearly with friends walking part of the Bruce Trail, but more importantly, being up on the Niagara Escarpment above Georgian Bay up there. And that really sort of connected me, I think, more to the aquatic environment and then the marine environment.
Right.
So I would trace it all the way back to when I was a kid.
Okay.
And of course, since I've been an academic, I've been involved a lot with parks and protected areas.
Right.
And I suppose have been involved there too with the whole issue of managing people in parks
Right.
in order to make sure that people understand what's going on, but also to help with the environmental protection efforts.
Right. Okay. Great. Um, and I guess you first started off a lot, in parks. You did some terrestrial, then you did some freshwater, but just until recently, I think maybe mid 2000s, you really started to learn, or seemed to learn about marine and coastal conservation. And what made you decide to almost not necessarily do the switch, but to expand on the conservation aspect of going into the coast and the marine?
Well, two things. Well, one person and one other thing. The late Bob Graham at the University of Waterloo was quite involved in marine protected areas, and I learned quite a lot from him. And when he died in 1993, it was like the sort of torch was passed, or at least that's how it felt to me. But in addition to that, around the late 90s, I mean, people started talking very seriously about a marine protected area up here on Lake Superior. And the more I thought about that, the more I realized that the program that I taught in fact, the whole university pretended as if we were in the middle of the boreal forest and not on the edge of the world's largest lake. So I think both of those sorts of sort of encouragements, I guess you could say, have led me to get more involved in marine protected areas.
Okay. Okay. Now, you did a course. Did you do a course at the Plymouth Marine Institute in the UK back in 2006?
No, I thought I was going on a sabbatical over there at one point, and I may yet, but I haven't done that.
Okay, okay. I saw it on a website. That's why I asked it. I think it was done before that, so I wasn't sure if you did that or not. You've been involved in quite a bit of working with local communities, from my understanding, with marine protected areas. So let's just talk about when we're talking about conservation of the coast and marine. What sort of strategies have been used in the past, and why did they either succeed or fail? Because we know some of the strategies haven't really succeeded, and that's why we're in such dire straits in some areas, especially such as overfishing and fishery stocks and water quality and things like that. Can you just describe a bit about the types of conservation strategies that were used and why they didn't necessarily succeed, and what have we learned from that to go on now in present day?
Let me talk about one that failed and is still, in fact, failing miserably, and that's along the shore of Lake Huron in Huron County in Ontario. The government has supported the development of intensive livestock operations, specifically hog operations, on essentially a soil base that has a lot of clay in it. And so when the manure from the hogs is put out on the land, normally a good environmental practice, a lot of it washes off and ends up in the lake. And of course, that shore has a considerable amount of cottaging activity along it, a lot of recreational activity, everything from beach use through to fishing. And yet, when you look at the institutional arrangements that are established there for planning, they stop at the high water mark. And it's almost as if the lake itself doesn't exist. Under those kinds of circumstances, the institutional arrangements themselves are probably at fault. The planning regulations don't go out into the water. The regulations regarding fisheries and fisheries habitat, of course, don't go onto the land. And so we've got a real disconnect there. So under those circumstances, it's clear that no one is focusing on the coastal zone as a place where people live and work. There are other issues that are involved in that, and we could maybe talk about them another time, some other time, but
right, yeah.
not today.
Yeah,